Good afternoon, welcome back. Get yourself a nice cup of tea, relax, because we're going back in time once again to 1859, where Paul Morphy is commentating on the 1834 game between MacDonald and Labordonnais. We have Father Dougal standing in for MacDonald because, of course, there are no known images that exist of Alexander MacDonald, and we have Zero Mostel standing in for Labordonnais because I've only been able to find drawings of the gentleman. State of play in this match is that there have been 3 games, and in each of the 3 games, MacDonald has been winning throughout, but by the end of them has managed to throw away the wins for draws. After a draw in this match, the players retain the same coloured pieces for the next game. So we have Labordonnais with the white pieces. So in this 4th match, can MacDonald finally push through for a victory, or can Labordonnais keep continuing to hold him off? So let's start. We have Labordonnais pushing e4, we have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop to c5, and c3. MacDonald plays d6 here, but Morphy says the required move is knight to f6. And it's undoubtedly the best at black's command at this juncture. The objection to the course pursued in the text is that it enables white to establish centre pawns. So MacDonald didn't play Morphy's required move of knight to f6, he pushed d6. And Labordonnais immediately attacks in the centre with d4. MacDonald captures, and Labordonnais captures with his c-pawn, attacking the bishop, and MacDonald retreats his bishop out of the way to b6. Now here, Labordonnais wants to keep attacking, so he pushes d5. And he's attacking the knight here. Morphy says, this move, a favourite one with Labordonnais at this stage of the Greco piano, is inferior, in our opinion, to knight to c3. The advance of the queen's pawn is premature, and if properly met by black, should lead to a perfectly even game. So MacDonald needs to do something about this attack, so he moves knight to e5. But Morphy disagrees with this move, and he says the correct play is to e7. But anyway, the game continues. Labordonnais captures with a knight here. MacDonald captures back with the pawn. And Labordonnais finally plays Morphy's knight to c3 move. And MacDonald, equally finally, plays Morphy's move that he recommended on move 4, knight to f6. And the game continues with bishop to g5 and MacDonald castles. Morphy says, this allows white, by playing his queen to f3, to double the black pawns upon the f-file, and to gain an opening upon the adverse king. But however black had played, white would still have had a slightly superior game. So Labordonnais did indeed play queen to f3, and MacDonald replied with queen to d6. And Labordonnais spots what Morphy mentions, and that if he captures the knight, we'll end up with a queen trade and double pawns for MacDonald. And that's exactly what happened in the game. So the game continues from here. Labordonnais wants to press the advantage because the king is exposed upon the g-file. So he pushes to g4. And we have king to g7, knight to e2, bringing the knight over to help with the attack, and rook to h8. It looks like MacDonald has decided that he shouldn't have castled, and now he's trying to uncastle, which is an interesting manoeuvre. Labordonnais brings his rook over to g1, lining up an X-ray attack upon the king here. And we have king to f8. MacDonald continues trying to uncastle. Rook to g2, king to e7, moving his king back towards the centre of the board. And we have castles by Labordonnais on the queen side. So perhaps Labordonnais' plan is to bring over the d-rook here so that he's got double rooks up this semi-open file. MacDonald decides to play h5. And Morphy comments. He doesn't like this h5 move. He thinks that bishop to d7, with the view of playing the queen's rook to g8, would have been far preferable. But that's not what happened. Macdonald pushed h5. And we have g5 from Le Bourdonnais. Macdonald refuses to capture it and instead pushes f5. We have knight back to c3, bishop to c5, g6, bishop to d6, g-pawn captures on f7, king captures on f7, and we have f4 from Le Bourdonnais. E captures on f4, rook on d to g1, so Le Bourdonnais has followed through and he's now got an open file with double rooks on it, which is very powerful. The king goes back to f8, rook to g6, infiltrating, f3 from Macdonald, and e captures on f5. We now have bishop to e5 attacking this knight, but Morphy says, in this game, Macdonald does not seem to have played with the self-reliance which characterized the 3 preceding contests. Bishop to d7 would surely have been more advisable. The move made throws the game away at once. So let's see what the outcome is of this bishop to e5 move. We have d6 from Le Bourdonnais, c captures, rook to g8 with check, forcing a rook trade. But with this rook trade comes another check, and this rook is protected by the bishop on c4. So the king moves, and Le Bourdonnais presses the attack with knight to d5. The king is in check, and Macdonald here, he can't retreat to the back rank. He can't come here because of the knight. He can't come here because of the pawn. So he's got a choice of 2 squares. He can go to d7 or f7. And Macdonald chooses d7. But of course, this walks straight into bishop to b5, which is what Le Bourdonnais played, and it is checkmate because the bishop covers this square. Again, the knight covers these 2 squares, the rook covers this one, and the pawn covers this one. And it's a very nice checkmate. So at this point, Macdonald could have played to f7 and prolonged the game a bit more, but it was, I think, lost once the rooks had infiltrated. So that's it for today. So instead of Macdonald breaking through for a victory, it's now 1-0 to Le Bourdonnais, which we weren't expecting because of the state of play in the previous games. So join us next time when Macdonald will be with the white pieces and Le Bourdonnais will be with the black. See you then.